Hello. What I'm going to be doing in this video is something that I've not really done before. I'm going to actually be playing Fallout 4, and I thought what I would do is do a little playthrough of my currently upcoming, but by the time this video comes out it will be released, mod Vault 4. And I thought what this could do is serve as essentially my final debug playthrough. Because at the time of recording this, I now have all the lines for, oh Jesus Christ, all the lines from my voice actors, except for, I think, there's literally one line which needs recording because I missed it out of a script, so that's just my fault. So this is going to be my final debug playthrough, so we might occasionally find one or two bugs, but hopefully not too many. And I'm going to do a little bit of a developer commentary to sort of explain a little bit about the mod and about the choices that I made and about what's going on under the surface. So this is where you start off the mod at Vault 4, which is just ahead over there. The actual mod itself was, interestingly enough, inspired by Fallout 76, if you can believe such a thing. Because when they first announced Fallout 76, I thought, well, that's actually quite an interesting idea, because what we've got is a vault, which actually opened after its 20-year closure period. And it got me wondering, well, what would that actually be like? Because Vault-Tec made quite big advertising, I think, out of the fact that the vaults would open in 20 years, which would mean people would know roughly when the vaults were due to open. So you would think, well, maybe people would come and wait outside the vault. And that was the premise of this mod. So essentially the people in the mod arrived outside the vault on the day of the war, weren't able to get in, and they decided to wait. And then ultimately Vault 4 never opened. And so we're left in this position now where it's 210 years later, and it's turned into a massive community. So I'm going to go and essentially just play through the mod now. So you start the mod nearby Macrofish Packing. And I chose this location because I just felt it had a good sort of spread as to where the other vaults are. So vault up here, vaults down here in the middle, vaults down here at the back. If you've got the DLC, vault down up here. But no vault up here for the residents of Salem to visit. And I also thought because there's not really much of a reason for the player to visit this area, it would be nice to have a mod which took place in the immediate area. So I should have gone up over the cliffs and gone down the stairs, really. Oh well. For some gameplay. So this might be shit. For all I know, this could be terrible. I might not be any good at it. So here is the vault. There's some Vault-Tec paraphernalia scattered around and a little restricted area thing. I'm gonna go inside now. So this is the entrance to Vault 4, and this character here, Chief Roscoe, is the first character that you're going to encounter. So he was the first character that I ever created, and I created him actually with the help of my brother who came up with the name, because I remember saying I'm looking for a name for the Chief of Security of the Vault, and he said, just immediately just said, Pete Roscoe, and that is the name that we went with. So let's go.
Alright, that's close enough. Who the hell are you? What
Really
are you
like
doing
this
here?
voice actor. His quest is possibly one of my favourites. Actually, it gave me chills editing the audio for his quest.
Why don't you tell me who you are first?
Name's Roscoe. That's Chief Roscoe, by the way. Now it's your turn. What are you doing here?
I'll say a little trading.
Just looking to do a little trading.
Well,
A lot of this
you come to
audio
the
is
right
in the
place.
trailer.
We got all kinds
I'll,
of
I'll, I'll,
stores
I
here.
will mostly let people listen. I'll say I'm a fellow Vault Dweller.
But I'm a fellow vault dweller. Can't you just let me in?
I think you got the wrong idea about this place, bub. We're not vault dwellers. Vault 4 has never opened. Anyway, I'm not really supposed to turn people away unless it's obvious they're trouble. Man, you seem alright to me. So, welcome to Fourville. And before you say anything about the name, don't bother.
I like
You
that
didn't
line.
come up with it.
It's
The mayor likes to
the
meet all
name of
new
the town,
visitors. The
Fourville,
town hall should be your
was a
first
placeholder
stop.
name that I
Get a
came
crime
up
to
with
report,
before,
find me.
so I'll just call it
If you commit a
Fourville for the
crime,
time being,
next
so it was called
person you'll be
Fourville in all the
talking to is my
assets.
rifle.
And I thought I'll come up with a better name later. And I basically just never came up with a better name and thought, well, Fourville kind of stuck after that. So here's the town. I quite like the town as well. It took a long time to make this and get it lit properly because I wanted to make it feel like, you know, you're in a cave but it also had to be dark, sorry, light enough that you could actually see what you were doing.
I've got some stuff you might want to know.
Let's talk to him straight away. Well,
You're new here, aren't you? The name's Big Ears. I saw you come in.
this guy doesn't have
I
an
always like
associated
to speak
quest
to the
per
new
se,
people in
but he has a
town.
little side
I
quest,
can help you get the
and
lay
he's
of the
kind of
land
ripped
better
off
than
from
anyone else
Rockface in
here.
Fallout New Vegas.
How'd you
Quite a
get
lot
that
of the
made?
characters
On
are
account of these big
inspired
old things on
by
the side of
stuff
my
that I've
head.
seen in New Vegas,
And
because I was
I
actually
always
playing
keep
through
them
New
to the
Vegas when I
ground.
first made this mod.
So, are you
So
interested
yes,
in
I
my
say
help?
ripped off, I obviously mean inspired by.
I'm listening.
Great! So, here's the deal. I know loads of useful information that you might need if you're going to make your way in Fourville. There are all kinds of people here. Some of them you'll want to mix with, some of them you won't. You pay me a cap, and I'll give you a little piece of useful info.
See, that's what
How
where
does
he's
that
taken
sound?
from Rockface. I thought it'd be good to have a character similar to that.
Let's see what you got.
So he'll deliver
Fantastic.
exposition
to
about
get
all
you
the different
started.
characters and
If
tell you
you're
where to
new
go.
in town, the first person you're going to want to see is the mayor. The second thing you need to know is that we're in the middle of an election. Mayor Sanders is up for re-election, but I hear Miss McKenzie is going to run him close. So, what did you think? Want any more? I've got plenty where they came from.
He genuinely does as well, because so if you pay him
Let's
enough
hear it.
Only
money,
the best tips
he
for you.
progresses through the story,
Betty
getting
is awful
like
jumpy,
more.
but she
He
seems
gets
nice
new
enough.
outfits, new clothes,
Stop by
and then
if
he
you're looking to
eventually leaves
trade.
town.
I think I outdid myself with that one. Don't you?
Tell me more about this town of yours.
Are you trying to get free information out of me? If you want to know what's going on in the town, you'll need to stump up some cash.
Well, why are you telling me all of this?
Haven't you figured it out yet? There's something sinister going on in this town, and you're the only one who can help. I'm sorry, I'm just shitting you. You should have seen the look on your face. I really need the money, and gossip and information are the only commodities I have. So help a poor guy out and buy a tip.
Oh, that music cue.
Not today.
I'll
Yeah,
get rid
you're
of that
lost.
music cue because I was not meant to play at that point.
Mayor Sanders is getting my vote.
This is another thing that one of the things that I'm hoping won't be too
I'm not about to
irritating
give up on Vault
is
4
for
opening. I'm gonna
residents
vote for
all
Mayor
chatting
Sanders.
shit.
Some of the people around here are crazy.
Yeah, basically, there's not very much generic resident dialogue, and perhaps one of the regrets I had of this mod is that I didn't write more. But at the same time, it's not a regret because there's so many different voice actors for the generic residents that I hated listening to that dialogue by the end of it. So we have to speak to the mayor. I should probably activate the quest.
Hey there.
Hello and welcome to the Fourville Town Hall. On behalf of Mayor Sanders, allow me to welcome you to our beautiful town.
This character was one that I had a
Now,
bit of
what the
trouble
hell do you
with a
want?
voice actor. Because the
to see
original
the
actors
mayor
for
about
this
something.
just
Oh,
didn't
is that
submit
all?
anything.
His office is
Just
just
and
to your
dropped
left.
content completely. And then eventually I found this actress who, to be honest, way better, like really, really great for the character. Quite a lot of that situations where that happens, where the original voice actor stopped getting in
Hey.
contact,
Why,
I actually ended
hello
up finding
there.
someone
Roscoe
better. So even though it
Radio
dragged out the
mentioned
mod,
we
it
had a
did make
visitor
things
coming down.
better in
I
the
hope
long
he
run.
didn't give you too much trouble. He loves to try and vet visitors. He told me you mentioned something about being a vault dweller. I'd be quite interested in hearing more about it.
Have you ever seen any other vault dwellers?
Oh, yes, we get plenty from 81, but we've heard of lots of other vaults. Now, I'm sure you've noticed
Voice
how
actor who
towns
plays
make attractions.
Wayne Sanders
Vault
has
Vault.
been in
always
my
make
mods
sure to let the
previously. He
visitors
previously
know the
played
door
Anthony
can't
Dunwich
be
in
opened. It hasn't opened
Far
since the
Harbor
day the
Story.
bombs fell over 200 years ago.
You might
Our
recognise
ancestors
some of
waited outside
the
vault,
accent. Obviously, it's
expecting
quite a
shelter
different
when it opened
accent,
after
but every
20
so often you can
years.
hear.
But
it's
never
just
did.
about,
Some
you can
people,
hear little
me
bits that are
included,
similar.
Still hold out hope that the vault will open one day. But listen to me talking your ear off. If you really want to learn more, you can visit the site of the original town in front of the vault door, or you can visit our museum above the entrance. Feel free to take in what the town has to offer. Enjoy yourself. My door is always open if you want to have a little chat.
So this portrait of Mayor Sanders is something I wasn't sure if I should include or not. I'm thinking about making it smaller. because I didn't know if it was terrifying. But that's the screenshot that I took of him for the casting call. I just thought it'd be funny to put it in. So it's directing you to go out here, but that leads up to Mayor Sanders' house, so you should really go out this door.
Stop by Mike's if you're looking for some firepower.
I'll just kind of run through some of the main story to begin with, and then we'll stop and speak to some of the side characters, get some side quests.
Welcome to Fourville. I've not seen you around town before. Are you interested in seeing the Fourville tents? Or perhaps purchasing a souvenir?
I'm interested in the history of this place.
So he's going to give all
So,
the
you want
exposition,
to
pretty
talk?
much that I gave at the beginning
Alright.
of this video, to be fair.
Here goes. More than 200 years ago, the Great War broke out across the world. Thousands of people took shelters in things called vaults, like the one behind me. When the vaults sealed, they were expected to open up after 20 years. There were some who decided that if they could wait that long, they could find shelter when it opened. George Willis was one such man. Together with his family, he arrived in the entrance cave to Vault 4 on the day of the Great War. Behind me, you can see the very tent he pitched for shelter, made from a recovered log and a sheet
I did
of
want to have an
plastic.
actual
It was a far
tent,
cry from the shelters which would come later.
be the tent, but I realised the
That's
tent
incredible.
models
If you
only
think that's
exist in Far
incredible,
Harbour, and obviously I
wait
wasn't
until
going to
you
make
hear
it
what
require a
happened next.
DLC just
Over
so I could have
time,
one
more
tent, so I just had him
refugees
have
began showing up at
a
the
log
vault
and a
seeking
piece of
shelter.
plastic.
As more people came,
Which is a
they
little bit
needed more
unbelievable
living
that it would
space.
be
The early
still there
residents of
after the
Fourville
whole
began to dig
all
out
this
the
time.
walls of the
But
cave
kind of one of the
and use
themes of
reclaimed
this
wood
mod
and
is about
dismantled vault
history and how
technique to
history
build
is
houses.
remembered. So when you
This
talk to
process
different
is still
characters,
ongoing as workers
they will
tirelessly
tell
dig
you
and create new
ever so
spaces for
slightly
houses
different
and maybe
versions of
find
the
a way
town
inside the
history,
vault.
like who
Many of
arrived
us in
first,
Fourville still
who was
dream
the
that
first
vault
mayor,
may one day open,
what
including
the
members
different
of the
mayors
Church
did,
of the
things
Four,
like that.
who
So you'll hear
you
just
can
ever
see
so slightly
often,
different
worship
versions,
in
and
this
that's kind of
site.
one of the
And
themes that I
that's the
wanted to
story of the Fourville tents.
explore in the mod
You'll
about
learn
how
more. You can
things
visit
are
the Fourville
remembered.
Museum or the Church of the Four.
Not right now.
We're open 24 hours a day if you
He
change
sells a
your
load
mind.
of old tat, the tent guard, and you can buy certificates of authentication from him to say that you've been to see the tents.
I hope the vault
It's
opens
Betty,
in my
the junk
lifetime.
salesman. We'll speak to Betty later. That's where Betty lives. But we're going to go straight to the Fourville Museum. You don't actually have to talk to Malcolm to complete. He's the curator to complete this section of a quest. You see, it just checked up immediately. But he does have a quest of his own.
Come on, work, you dang machine. What about... No, that isn't right.
You can also
Oh,
go around
never
reading these plaques with different things. George Willis was the founder and first mayor of Fourville. It was Willis who, when he first arrived at Vault 4, decided to set up a tent and wait for it to open. His bold idea attracted many more Boston residents whose descendants under Willis's brave leadership went on to create the Fourville we know today. Although no photos of Willis survive, this mannequin represents what he might have looked like.
Oh,
And there's loads
I
of
didn't
old
see
shite
that.
that you can look
Welcome
at in
to the
here.
Fourville
This is
Museum.
all
How can I help
this is
you?
the George Willis collection with all the stuff that he owned. These bobbleheads here, in fact if you read this, it mentions it is said Vault-Tec produced an entire set of these bobbleheads along with a Vault 101 and Vault 111 collection, but to this day only these proof of concept versions have been found. You can actually find I have made a full set of Vault 4 bobbleheads with custom perks and little custom quotes for the bottom. Let's go chat to Malcolm anyway, because you don't have to chat to him for the quest, but he does have his own quest.
Hey there.
Welcome to the Fourville Museum. I'm sorry about that little display when you got in. I've been having some technical difficulties with the new exhibit.
I'm not 100% satisfied with Malcolm's
this?
physical
It's a
appearance.
holotape. I
He's
bought
one
it
of the
from a
very
trader who
few
came by a
characters
few
who are
weeks
made
ago.
with the
He said it had some kind of
creation
game
kit's
on
face
it, but
editor.
I've not
The
been able to get
majority
it
of
to run.
characters in this mod
It keeps saying
were
I need to
created
download
by
update, but when I
creating the
press
face
button,
on
it
the
just
player
says cannot
character
communicate with
using
cloud
the
server.
face
I'm not sure what a lot of
sculpting,
those words
you know, the
mean.
face
I've tried
surgery
everything
stuff,
I can think
then
of.
using
I
the
even
face
took it
ripper tool
outside
to
where it
copy
could
their
see the
faces
clouds, but
directly
no luck.
onto the
It's a real
NPCs.
shame because it'd make a great
So
addition
what we'll
to
see
our
when we
new
go through the
pre-war
town,
exhibition.
some of these characters actually look
Is
like
there
my
anything I
player,
can do to help?
and I'll point out
Maybe there is
characters
something
when we
can
get
do.
to them
I
who
had
are
wondered
modelled
if
off
it
player
might be
characters that
possible
I
to
have played
download
as.
update directly from
So
the
we will
company
eventually
who
see
made the
Chuck,
game.
my character. We
My
will
exam
eventually
duties
see
keep me
him
so
when we
busy,
go
I
through the
wouldn't be able
course
to
of this
go
mod.
myself. The game was made by a company called Real Patriot Games. You might be able to download update from their
See, the thing with Malcolm
headquarters.
Longbottom is he
If you're
looks
able
a
to do that
little
for
bit
me,
like
you'd
the
be doing the
default
museum
character,
a
like the
really
default
big
Nate,
favor.
because it's really quite difficult to edit characters in the Creation Kit's own character editor. It's far easier to make them on a player character's face and transfer them over using the face editor tool. It's just far, far easier to do that. Oh, Mayor Sanders is off on his walk. Like, sometimes he wanders around the town, so
all the way.
he doesn't just stay in his office.
Excuse me.
Most of the characters have proper day-night schedules, and sometimes some of them will even go to lunch in the cafe and things like that, or hang around in a bar and common room. Looking for more work if you've got any.
Looking for more work if you got any.
Actually, there's a little something that a traveler like you would be perfectly suited for.
I'm gonna have to remember to cut the. I'm sorry if I forget to cut out any of these sniffs or throat clears.
What do you say?
Yeah, sounds great.
Sounds great.
That's great. That's great. Here's a stack of leaflets and a list of undecided voters. You're gonna be helping me a lot out here.
There we go. We should. The quest is gonna trigger, isn't it? It didn't show up in my inventory. This has never happened before in the entire time that I have been
How's the delivery going?
testing this
Nothing
mod.
else for now.
I
You come
genuinely
back
can't
anytime,
believe
you hear?
that in this fucking playthrough this has happened. Alright, we're back in Fourville, where we should now be able to continue the quest. So, the reason that was happening is because every single resident that we see, these generic people, are generated randomly from leveled lists, and they're also all assigned a keyword, meaning they're either a Sanders voter, a McKenzie voter, or an undecided voter. And this quest was hunting for undecided voters for the player to deliver leaflets to. But, in an incredible coincidence, which I suppose I should have always known was a theoretical possibility, no undecided voters were spawned, and that's never happened in any of the playtests I've done, which have been numerous. So now I created this dude sitting in the chair, who will always be there. No matter in any of your playthroughs, he will always be there, and he will always be an undecided voter.
The vault opens in my lifetime.
Stop by Mike's
Excuse
if
me.
you're looking for
Thanks for
some
the
firepower.
leaflet. But I already got one of those for Miss McKenzie's campaign, and I think I'm gonna vote for her.
So what normally happens is you deliver all those leaflets, and they say thank you and take the leaflet. And then the last resident will tell you that he's already got one from Ms. McKenzie's campaign, and the quest opposition
Stop
day
by
will
Mike's if
trigger,
you're looking
sending
for some
you to go and
firepower.
speak to Ms. McKenzie. But because he was the only resident to spawn, it sent you directly to Ms. McKenzie in this instance. So I'm going to go and speak to Ms. McKenzie, and I am actually going to, you'll see in a second, but I'm going to side with Ms. McKenzie. Apologies for the cut there. I had to change something. This is what I really love this actress as well, because I was torn between getting her to play Ms. McKenzie or a different character who we haven't seen yet, but she was just too good as Ms. McKenzie to not do it. She's just perfect for this role.
I would expect you to do what I tell you to do. You will be helping me remove that clown Wayne from office so Fourville can have a competent mayor. That's me, in case you couldn't tell. I only want what's best for this town.
Ms. McKenzie is also an example of another feature that this mod has, which is that it is able to access DLC content to include in the mod. But if you don't have the DLC, there will be no conflict. You don't actually require the DLC to play the mod. So, for example, in the Nuka World DLC, if you have the Automaton DLC, extra items will spawn from that DLC. So what this mod is capable of doing is if you have the DLC installed, it will search out in those files and assign Ms. McKenzie this suit. So this is the suit that the operators wear. But if you don't have that DLC, obviously it won't be able to pull this suit from those files. So what it will do is simply have her wear a different suit. And there's no files from the DLC are included in this mod, which is why it does require the DLC. But if you don't have the DLC, it doesn't matter. It just uses scripts to dynamically pull stuff out. This character is another example of that feature in action, except this time it is with other mods. So he's wearing here 10 pennies suit, and that is taken from a Misc Outfits pack mod, except it doesn't actually use the assets so my mod doesn't use the assets. If you don't have that other player's mod installed, you'll never see this, because this is actually taking it out of his mod, if you know what I mean. It's kind of a little bit difficult to explain, but essentially, if you don't have this mod, this suit won't show up. He'll be wearing a normal suit. My mod doesn't use any assets from any DLCs or anybody else's mods, but the script is capable of accessing the game files from other DLCs and mods.
Hello, young man. Welcome to Knocklofty House.
This is another one. I really like the voice actor for this mod as well. This character as well.
What do you mean
Again,
by that?
it's like one of those ones when I heard it, I was like, this is definitely the guy, because it really fits with the face. Another piece of trivia here is that this character used to look completely different, and then I changed his face. I transferred this character's original face to a different character whose face I didn't like, and gave him this face.
Take up my seat in my ancestral home.
This place is all kinds of strange.
Well, yes. I often consider the juxtaposition between the traditional furniture and the contemporary rustic shack to be a strange one. When I take up my ancestral seat at the true Knocklofty House, things will be far grander.
Well, it's a nice goal anyway. Good luck.
Thank you for the well wishes, young one. Listen closely, because I'm going to tell you a secret.
What's happening to his coat there? It kind of looks like it's weirdly clipping out of his body, isn't it?
Lying there. My family has a grand history of aviation, so I've built my own plane in an area I excavated myself. Come, I'll show you.
There we go. Let's see if he can make his way in, because this is an area I've had a bit of a problem with the nav mesh. Oh, it looks like he's doing it just fine now. I'll go in ahead of him. He should be able to make his way in if I go in. Yeah, he has done. Look, and look, he's built this himself. An impressive feat of engineering, that is.
This is Margaret. Marvelous, isn't she? This is how I'm going to get home to Ireland and claim my rightful seat as the Earl.
Calling the plane Margaret was actually the idea of the voice actor, but when he suggested it, I thought, oh shit, fuck me.
Hey there.
I thought that it worked really well with the character, especially again the name, because I felt like the name might be a name that the man who whose face this character is based on might choose for his plane.
She's very impressive.
I'm glad you think so, young one.
I'm gonna have to fix that when he walks away. I do have a little
Margaret
notepad
has
where I
but
take
one
note of all the bugs that I encounter
She
over
needs
the
nuclear fuel,
course of the mod.
and she's a thirsty girl. Say, that gives me a good idea. How would you like to earn yourself a bit of pocket money, young one?
I'm always down for earning myself some pocket money.
Nuclear power? That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Oh, you've nothing to worry about. I know exactly what I'm doing.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure it'll all just be
What do you
fine.
need me to do?
There are all kinds of sources of nuclear fuel in the Commonwealth. All far too dangerous for an old man like me, but perfectly suited for a young one like yourself. If you could bring some back to me while I gave Margaret her finishing touches, I'd be most grateful.
There we go. Get the nuclear fuel. What I might do actually show you what I was talking about with the external. So there's a special quest that I've made. BLT04 external content quest. Ah, fuck me. So what it does is it hunts out if you've got certain things installed. So for example, far harbor, this is a string variable, far harbor equals DLC coast.asm. So there's a couple of them, so I'm using, if you have these mods installed, it enables extra content. So if you have Misc Outfit Pack version 2, that's what his outfit is from. if you have the FNV service rifle mod, you can get extra. You can use the service rifle with this mod. If you have my Vault-Tec story mod, there's extra content. Watt's laser gun is another example. David Hunter uses it, an anti-material rifle. And so what it does is it searches out and flags if you have them. So if you have them, it will flag these flags. Then it will look inside the ESP that you've got installed and find the particular item. So you can see all these have different codes. So the prefix for anything related to Vault 4 is 65, but the prefix for anything related to David Hunter is 2C. So it's searching out within the David Hunter ESP the David Hunter main quest and filling it in the property. But if you were to not have any of these items, it simply wouldn't be able to find them because it requires the other person's mod. It's not using any files from anybody else's mod. But if you don't have that mod installed, you can still play my mod, so it's kind of a way of getting a little bit of extra content in, and it's similar to the base game does it between Nuka World and Automaton DLC, which is where I got the idea from.
Welcome to Fourville.
So let's see who else we can talk to now. Let's go and talk to Mayor Sanders. Return to Mayor Sanders. So once you've finished Undecided Now, Mayor Sanders will offer you the same offer that Ms. McKenzie offers you to work with him as an election agent, but I've opted to side with Ms. McKenzie.
Hi.
How's the delivery work going?
I got the
I
job
got the
done.
job done.
That's wonderful news. Thank you. Here's a small reward for your efforts. You did such a good job for me, I was actually hoping to offer you a job working in my re-election campaign. I was a little disappointed when I heard you'd already signed up to help Miss McKenzie. I really don't think she's the right person for Fourville at the moment.
So now that basically locks out all the rest of Sanders' dialogue, so you can still chat to him.
Nothing.
But
You
he doesn't
come
have
back
any more
anytime.
quests for you. The rest of the quests now are putting up the posters. So putting up the posters you get given to you regardless of whether you side with Sanders or McKenzie. But after that you start to get unique quests. So the next McKenzie quest will be different from the next Sanders quest. There we go, that's Ms. McKenzie's 4-point plan for Fourville. These posters, this one and Mayor Sanders, were made by the same person who made the logo for Fourville and the poster for Fourville, the one with which
I don't
depicts
have time to
Roscoe
chat.
with a vault in the background, the poster for the mod. And she's helped me with a lot of textures throughout the course of the mod, and she's a really great artist. You should have a
Stop
look
by
at her
Mike's if you're looking
Instagram,
for
which
some
I will have
firepower.
linked in the description for the mod.
Mayor Sanders is
Putting up
getting
the
my vote.
posters. This is a little bit like, I'm a little bit perhaps disappointed, I think, with the main quest line for this mod, because the first couple of quests that have you going around delivering leaflets and putting up posters for an election, I mean, it's not the most exciting thing ever. So really, I actually wanted the side quests to be the dominant driving force, like of the mod, and that the main quest, the stuff with the election, was just to give it a little bit of structure and to feel like it had a main quest line. But it's not really super
Mayor
important.
Sanders is getting my vote.
Jesus
I don't know
Christ.
about you, but
These will
Sanders
be.
is wasting
I hope
his
people
time
don't
going
find these
on
too
about the
irritating.
vault all the time.
There's a couple
I'm
of
going to vote
characters
for
in
McKenzie.
here who I really like, so I'm going to stop off and do some quests.
Pull up a chair. Let's talk. I've got a proposition that might interest you.
The actor who played Nelson had previously played Uqueltoff in my Far Harbor Story
Hey,
mod.
you're the new guy,
And again,
right?
as soon as he put in
I'm
his audition
Nelson.
for Nelson,
Nice to
I
meet
was
you.
like, he's the guy. I knew immediately.
What do you do around here?
I thought you were never going to
Piece of
ask.
trivia actually
I've got a
about
proposition
Nelson.
for you, something I
The
can
character
tell you gonna
Nelson
love.
was actually meant to
I've got
appear
a
in
little
Far
game
Harbor
to
Story
tell.
because originally
Newbie?
Far
I don't
Harbor
think you
Story
should
had a
Nobody. You
radically
mind your
different
own
plot
damn
line.
business, Rusty.
It started off
I'm
with you
sure our
finding a
friend
dead
here's smart
ghoul in
enough
the
to make their
Commonwealth
own
who
decisions.
owed a
How
lot
about
of
you go
money
back
to
to
a
doing
loan
what you do
shark named
best?
Nelson.
Keeping your
And
mouth
you would
closed
go and you would
serving the
visit
drinks.
Nelson in
Where was I? Oh, that's right.
the
I was
dugout
about to
inn
give you the
to
opportunity
discuss
to
the
get in
debts
on
that
a little game
he'd
with me.
acquired, and you discover
Call
that
it
the
playing
brother of this
numbers.
dead ghoul, who would have been Ronald, had gone to Far Harbor Story to try and earn some
I
money
like
to
the
pay off.
name.
He'd gone to Far Harbor to
Sounds
try and earn
encouraging.
money to
Yeah,
pay off the
yeah,
debt.
that's right.
And all the
It's
stuff
an
about
encouraging
Uqueltoff just wasn't in it.
Everyone
Like, it had
has
a
a chance to
totally and
win big.
utterly
Let me
different
explain
plot
the rules
line.
to
It
you.
was going to be
We play once a week.
quite radically
Each
different, in
player pays
fact.
100 cap entry fee.
So yeah, I'm
Expensive,
glad
I
I
know,
changed
but if
it,
you
but when it
win, then you
came
win
to
big.
making
Every
Miss
player's
Mod,
given a random
I
number
decided to
between 1
restore
and 100.
Nelson to,
At the end of the week,
and it's a little bit
winning
tongue in
number is
cheek
chosen at
because
random. If someone has
Fist,
a winning
because
number, then we
you
have to
play
buy.
the numbers
The other
in
half
this, like
goes
that
to me
song
as
that I
an
particularly
administrative
hate, that's in this
Of
thing.
course, if there's no winner,
So yeah, I
then
just
keep
decided
the
to restore the character
It all
because I
goes
had an
towards the
idea for a
cost of running
character
the game,
and I'd never
boss.
used it.
So what
So I
do you
thought I
say?
may as well use the character
Fancy
idea.
playing the numbers?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Sure, let's do it.
All right.
It's a
I'll
waste
take
of
your
money
100
playing the
caps.
numbers because the
Here's
odds
your
of
number.
winning are so
Come back in a
astronomically
week or
low.
so when I've done the draw.
Because as Nelson
Good luck.
explained, you're assigned a number between 1 and 100, and then he will pick a number between 1 and 100, and the odds of my number being the correct number are incredibly low, so you are a fool if you play this game. But actually your luck does factor into this, so if you lose, sometimes you win regardless if your player has a high luck. And if that happens, Nelson will actually comment on it. He will say, "Oh, damn, you got lucky this time," or something like that. So let's chat to
Welcome
Rusty
to
now.
Fourville.
Hey.
Oh, hey there. I'm Rusty, the bar, guy?
I like this character as well.
Can I,
He was, I think, the
get you a
last
drink or
character that
something?
I made with the editor, the in-creation kit editor.
Is everything all right? You seem upset.
Everything's fine.
Oh, Lorraine, what the...
Something's bothering you.
Just
I
got
can-
sat right in
All
front
right,
of the screen.
I'll tell you. It's just that everyone around here bullies me. They call me mean names like Rusty Bullet Hole. I hate it so much.
Amuses me that.
Just because I'm
Amuses me
young,
too
they
much.
think they can push
For
me
a
around.
stupid joke. So you can bully him here and suggest insulting nickname, in which case you fail,
Surely
but
we
I am
can
going to
work
offer him
something out.
help.
I don't know. You could always try. Nelson is the ringleader, but every time I talk to him, it just makes it worse.
Alright, so we can do a couple of things with
Welcome to
Nelson now.
Fourville.
We can beat him up, or we can convince him not to bully Rusty anymore, or we can
there.
actually
I
encourage
saw
him
you
to bully
talking to
more.
little Rusty Bullet Hole over there.
I'm going to encourage
Pathetic,
Nelson to do the
maybe.
bullying because I haven't
you just
actually
love seeing
tested
him
that
tear up?
thing of the plot.
Yeah. Absolutely. You should really pay him a visit.
I like you. Maybe I will go pay Rusty a little visit. Hey, Rusty.
Oh, it is
Rusty, I
working.
wanna talk
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
good. Okay. That needs fixing, obviously. That was quite funny. I'm just going to make note of that. I think that's probably going to have fucked it up.
Yeah?
There we go, it's working.
What do you want, Nelson? A drink? I can get you one. On me.
My friend and I over there have been talking. We've come to a conclusion. I thought I should share it with you.
Oh, what is it?
We think you're a complete and total loser who never amount to anything. I think most people would agree with me on that. Now, how about that
That's
drink?
this whole sequence is obviously
Ah,
going to need fixing
alright.
because
Here's your
none of
drink.
that was right.
House.
None of that worked as it was supposed to.
Hey.
Oh no. Are you serious? Okay, this isn't giving a great impression of my mod. I might need to get in touch with a voice actor about that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. There was a missing line. Wow.
Hey.
Just leave me alone.
Wow. I'm quite surprised that
Have
that
you
got
ever been to
past
a
me.
museum?
It's not a huge,
Vampires?
not the most,
Don't.
amazing reflection on the quality of my mods, but
Crap.
like I said, this is basically the final
I saw you
debug run.
talking to Nelson before. A word of advice. Keep away from him. He's nothing but trouble. And just so we're clear, we're not friends. I just don't want you to lose all your caps is all.
Logan is probably my favourite character in the whole mod. I really love his quest line. He's also a companion character, and he is the largest single character that I've ever written. So previously David Hunter had more lines. Now,
So
Logan
what
is
do
the
you
lot
need?
as
I
the
just got
most
here a
lines of
few
any
days
character
ago.
I've ever written.
Looking for work.
I had quite a lot of trouble with the voice actor for this one as well, so
What kind of work?
I
are we
originally
talking
had a
about?
voice
I
actor
do
that
a
I
lot of
thought was
things,
really great
but I
for it,
specialize in light
and he
mercenary
sent me
work.
one scene,
Bodyguarding,
told me
bounty
he'd be
hunting,
done by
things
the
like
end of a
that.
week,
And before
then
you
just
ask,
never got in
no,
contact with me
I do
ever
not do
again,
his.
despite the fact that I
No
regularly
good
said,
neighbor
you know, I
or
gave
the
him a
gunners
lot of
that
time and
shit.
quite a lot of leniency because I quite liked his voice. So then I put Logan back up on the casting call.
I'm interested. If you think
When
you've
this
got
guy
what it takes.
applied,
Oh,
I
I've got what
immediately,
it
you know, I
takes.
immediately knew
I've got 2
this is the
decades on
guy,
road in the
and this
Commonwealth
guy
under
was,
my belt.
you know, again,
So don't
really
question
great,
me.
really
If
great
you really
audio,
wanna hire me,
perfect for the
my fee
plot,
is 200
and
cash.
very
I
professional and
don't
prompt
negotiate.
and everything. So he was really good. I was really pleased with this.
Here's your money.
It turned
Looks
out
like
really
you
well
just
after
bought
quite a lot
yourself a
of
guard.
stress waiting
First
on
of
the
all,
original actor.
we should go over some ground rules. In case I hadn't made it clear already, we're not friends. I'm your guard. You're my boss. That's all. Secondly, I'm not a murderer. I'll defend you if you're attacked, but I won't take part in random killings.
He will.
If that's
He,
all
he says
clear,
that, but there's
let's get
no
moving.
system
You're the
put in
boss.
place to make him not be with
Welcome
you.
to Fourville.
So Logan
Sanders goes
is a
on-
commendable follower.
Sanders goes on
who
about
gets
the
his-
damn vault
Did you
way
hit-
too much.
Does that need
But
to
at least you
recut?
feel like he
So-
cares about you.
Anyway, so Logan will get
Miss
his gun out when
McKenzie?
you get your gun
She
out.
scares me.
Normally. He crouches when you crouch. He's commandable, but you can also have him in conjunction with a vanilla follower. So I
I
don't
could
have
do
any
with a
vanilla
resupply
followers at the
if there's a
moment
town
because
here.
I just thought it'd be better to run through without any. And then
Some of the
Logan
people
also
around
has
here
his
are
own
crazy.
affinity system.
Expecting the vault to
So
suddenly
he doesn't really care about any events
mics if you're
of the
looking for some
game.
firepower.
And like I said, I didn't really create a system for him
I
to
don't
be
have time for
fired
that.
to you know, hate you or anything like that. But he does as you go with him, as you complete quests with him, hang out with him, he'll gain your trust. So it's more about gaining Logan's trust and becoming friends with him than he is about approving or disapproving of you. Actually, okay, that isn't right.
Welcome to Fourville.
You're the boss.
Yeah, just checking that worked. Those obviously is a bug because he's sitting where the children are supposed to sit. So at night time, the
I'm not allowed to
children
give
come
up
and
on
sit out
Vault
here,
4
so that's
opening.
not supposed to
I'm
happen.
going to vote for Mayor Sanders.
Let's see who else we can get. I know who.
It
Speaking
feels
of the
weird
children,
not to be constantly having to look over
let's go and visit Mr. Nalli. He was also a major problem character, and every time I have a ghoul in a mod, they're a problem. They're always really difficult to find a voice actor for, and Mr. Nalli was another example, and he was another example where the voice actor just abruptly just stopped getting in touch with me. He didn't ever send me any audio, and again I gave him a lot of leniency because I really liked his voice. But then again, same thing happened as with Logan really. I found another guy who was so much better, great audio, great voice, very professional and very prompt. So Mr. Nalli today has sent him the last of his lines, and he was the last character I was waiting for. So let's celebrate that by going through his quest.
Look here, children. A new visitor here for story time. Would you like to join us, stranger?
Mr. Nalli was actually the very first character that I conceived for this mod.
To the little children. We were
So you
just
can
in the
learn a
middle
little
of
bit
when
more
you
about
came
his
in.
past
Would
if
you
you
like
speak to
hear
him
it?
at night time. But we'll just run
That's
through the
great.
first story first.
I know just the one to tell you. Why don't you take a seat and we can get started?
This quest was originally meant to be quite different as well. So when you sat down for story time, you were meant to actually
All right, everyone.
physically
Listen
see it play
carefully.
out. So you would
I'm going to
teleport
tell
to a
you a
different
happy
area and
story.
you would literally see
All
the
of
story
this took
play out.
place a long
But it
time
proved to
ago.
just be too
All
difficult
the
to
way
do,
back
so I
in
just had him sit and
2034.
tell the story. So
Can
it was
you
going to be a lot
imagine that
more
long ago?
ambitious.
2034? Wow, that's so long ago.
Are you that old, Mr. Nalli?
The children
No,
were
no,
surprisingly
children.
not that difficult to
Don't
find
you know
voice
it's
actors
rude
for.
to
I
ask
thought
an
they
old
would be
man his
impossible,
age?
but I did manage to
As
find a
I
voice
was
actor
saying,
for the children in
This
the
took
end.
place a long time ago. People used to live a lot longer then, but there were no ghouls.
That's so weird.
That meant it was common for younger members of society to look after their older relatives. Our story takes place in a house, just like that. There was a man named Thomas, and he lived with his young wife, Martha, his son, Jake, and his elderly father, Pete.
Pete! Like Mr. Roscoe.
That's right. I suppose they do have the same name. This family
I
lived
think he's
happily
looking at
together,
Logan. I think that's
taking
why
part
he's
in all the
staring up
great
into
American
the
traditions like
sky.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, and baseball. When Thomas looked at what he had, it made him happy. These are truly the best days of my life, he thought to himself.
What happened next?
I think that's a story for another time. I wouldn't like to spoil you.
Where are all the children going?
Gotta clean my gun.
Did you enjoy the story?
See, this speech challenge will get you
Next
to
time
learn
you
a
wanna
little
talk
bit
to me
more
about
about his
yourself,
family
Try
history.
and be a little more upfront about it.
It was that obvious, was it? Yeah. Thomas was me.
It must be nighttime.
Martha was my wife.
That's why all the children are
Jake
leaving.
was my son. And Pete was my father. I tell the stories so I can remember them. But I don't want the children to know they're true. I hope we can keep this between us.
This line is missing, and I have been in touch with the voice actor about it. It's the only line which I left it out of a script, so he didn't record it. So yeah, that line is unfortunately missing. But like I said, I've been in touch with him about it this morning, so hopefully I should have that. Obviously, that will be in before the mod is released. So I think it must be nighttime. So
Hello again. There are no more stories until tomorrow morning.
we must have just caught Mr. Nalli just before it was became nighttime.
Anything I can do to help you?
There's no need
Oh,
to
he's walking around.
I'm perfectly
This is a
happy
classic
here with my
glitch in the
stories.
scene. You have to set for some scenes are automatically set to only run scene packages,
stories to the little
but some
children.
aren't for seemingly
It's all an
no
old
reason.
man like me can do.
And
If you come back in the morning,
I always forget
you're
to
more
check.
than welcome to hear one.
Tell me about yourself.
What sort of thing do you want to know?
So you just have to check to run only scene packages if
What's
they
it
wander
like,
around during this, and that will mean that they don't
I won't lie
perform
to
their
you.
sandbox and
It's
wander around, which is obviously very irritating.
Sometimes I struggle to remember.
I don't know why it doesn't always default to it, but like sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's just a quirk of the creation
That's why
kit.
I live through my stories.
It just
They help
doesn't
me
work
remember how it
to,
was
you know,
before.
twist a phrase.
How long have you been here?
Oh, I've lived here a long time. In fact, I was one of the first residents. I love talking about the early days of this place, when it was nothing but tents. Why don't you come back for story time? I love to tell stories about those days, and my life before the war.
Have you been here for 200 years?
Oh yes, and I'm quite proud of it. I'm the only living resident of the original camp setup outside the vault over 200 years ago.
That's a long time.
Oh, not at all. The years flew by. I was already an old man when I got here. What was another lifetime or two on top of that? Besides, I had to stay because, well, I don't really like to talk about it.
It's all right. You can tell me.
I had a place in the vault, but my son and grandson didn't. We all came
that's a
here on the
typo.
day of the war, but they weren't allowed in. I gave up my place so they could be safe. I never really thought I'd live long enough to see it open, but then the radiation got to me and made me live forever. 20 years passed.
This is
and the
one of
vault
the
never opened,
instances where I was
but
talking
I
about
couldn't bring
earlier,
myself
where
to leave.
you get lots of different versions
This
of a
place is
history.
home for me now.
So,
Now,
George
I'm an
Willis, the
old,
founder
old
of
man
Fourville,
who
claims
lives
he
in
was the
history.
first one to arrive
It's not the retirement I
at
wanted,
the
but I've
vault,
made peace
but
with
Mr.
it,
Nalli
and I'm
claims
happy.
differently, essentially.
I'm
That
interested in the
he
history of this
arrived
place.
here with his
Well,
family on the day of
you've
the
come
war.
to the right person. Longbottom might think his museum is the
And everybody
definitive
worships
town
George
history.
Willis, but
I actually
Mr.
lived it.
Nalli has a, you know,
Who built
a
this
bad
place,
impression of him
originally?
and tells you sort
Has
of
it been
more
here long?
factual things about what he was really
That
like.
depends what part of the town you're talking about. They finished construction on the vault in 2075 or 6? Early 7 at the latest. The first tent was set up on the day of the bombs by a man named George Willis. You'll hear a lot of people around here talk about him like he was some kind of god or a king. Me? I never liked the man. I found him arrogant, especially once he proclaimed himself mayor of his little tent village.
What do you know about him?
Like I said, he was arrogant. He arrived on the morning of the bombs. I arrived in the afternoon. But by that time, he'd already proclaimed himself leader of the refugees there. He pitched that tent,
Ted
and
Willis's
the rest is history.
George Willis's diaries tell a different story.
What happened to him?
The same thing that happened to everyone else. He died. He was an old man when it happened. Older than I was when I first arrived, which is saying something. He wanted to be buried at sea, so he put his body in the water outside. Just as well.
Yeah, Ted Willis is somebody completely different.
Some
Some of these characters' names are inspired by people that have come up in my PhD research.
That was all I had.
So Ted Willis is somebody from that, and Will Nalli is a different person who's also come up in my PhD research. So that's where they get these people get their names from there.
It was nice.
So I always accidentally call them by the wrong names.